How's it going today, chat? Today we've got a great one, DeFi Recode episode 6. We've got Alexander on with us from ALGO DEX and the Algorand community. He's also been around with us here in Twitch chat, so this should be a really fun one to kind of catch up with him. And if you don't know him, I'll let him kind of introduce himself, kick himself off with a bit of his history, and we'll kind of go from there. Alex?
Sure. So my name's Alexander Trefonas, and I would say, well, currently I'm working on something called ALGO DEX, which is going to be one of the first um, exchange platforms for Algorand, which will let you trade between algos and then any Algorand standard asset. And an Algorand standard asset is like the equivalent of an ERC token, ERC20 token on Algorand. So that's like what I'm currently working on. And then I've somehow kind of gained a social following on Twitter, within the Algorand community, which I can talk about. It's an interesting story too, because that all happened like really quickly, just since I guess February or March or something. So
Yeah, it's grown really, really quickly.
yeah.
Let's give a little bit of a background, on yourself and what led you
Okay.
to crypto. You know what I mean?
Okay. So way back in 2011, I got into Bitcoin, and I originally bought a whole bunch of Bitcoin. I had I don't know, like 640, like way back. But because I was foolish, eventually, in 2015, I'm like, oh, Bitcoin's going nowhere at the moment. It could go up, it could go down. Who knows? I'm just going to sell my Bitcoin. Worst decision of my life. So basically, at that time, Bitcoin just kind of kept going up. It just kept going up and up and up. And I'm like, I can't believe I did this. I don't want to rebuy it at a higher price. I'm just going to stay out of crypto for now. I just don't like it anymore. So I basically took a long break from crypto, and then what happened was, um, basically, I started watching your channel off and on, while I was working from home because of COVID. And I kept seeing you actually, you're looking at all these different cryptocurrencies and you're investing in some and talking about like what's better than what others. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should get back into crypto. So I started, taking a deeper dive into that. And then basically, I saw you invested in Cardano, and I was just watching and watching, and you were just literally making more and more money from Cardano, like ridiculous amounts, of your initial investment. And I just could not believe it. I'm like, is there like something here I'm missing? Because like I thought everything's just kind of like Bitcoin, where you just have tokens. They have great properties, like you can send them internationally, and all the security and decentralization aspects. But I completely underestimated the uh, the potential for smart contracts and also tokenization. I just completely missed it. So basically, you helped by watching your channel on off and on. It helped clue me in back into the crypto space. So I actually started doing my own research. Like I was thinking, should I be investing in Cardano? Should I be investing in some other cryptocurrency? So I have a computer science background, and basically my whole life, since I was 7 or so, my dad taught me how to program really early on. So I've just been programming off and on. And so I have like a career as a programmer basically. So before college, I had some websites, for my high school. During college, I had internships. After that, I had a bunch of different jobs as a, professional programmer. So just been doing it basically, like my whole life. So I use my computer science background to then really dig into like what's actually the best cryptocurrency. As far as I can tell from my own opinion, just kind of ignoring other people's opinions. So I kept going around. I read deep into the Cardano protocol, which is super interesting, by the way. All the research for Cardano, and then I kept circling back to Algorand. I first noticed it because I think they're giving 6% rewards on Coinbase. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, I wonder how this works. But at the time, I just assumed it was just another coin. But then I looked. I'm like, oh, it's backed by MIT. It was invented by one of the top cryptographers. And then I started reading the actual research, and I realized, wow, this is actually like probably the best protocol of all of them. So every blockchain has a different protocol. Every unique blockchain, like Cardano has the Ouroboros or something.
Ouroboros, yeah.
Ouroboros, yeah, protocol, and Algorand has the Algorand protocol. Bitcoin is a Bitcoin protocol. Ethereum's is basically a copy paste of Bitcoin's protocol for Ethereum 1.0, but they're changing it for 2.0. not a total copy paste. Like I think they have a different hashing algorithm and such, but it's very similar to Bitcoin. It's proof of work. So basically, yeah, I started comparing, contrasting all the protocols. I don't know how much technical detail you want to get into, but what
I
I
mean,
like about Algorand, sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, what I like about Algorand is unlike all of the other decentralized ones that are actually decentralized, Algorand has under 5 second finality. So if you send a transaction on Algorand, it basically will fully settle after 4 or 5 seconds with no uncertainty at that point. While with Cardano, if you transfer it, it's going to take minutes to do that, which is not bad. Like Bitcoin's like an hour, right?
Right,
So,
absolutely.
so that's one great aspect of Algorand, and partly related to that is the fact you can't fork Algorand, which means that so Bitcoin, one of the biggest problems and why you have to wait for like let's say 10 block confirmations to actually transfer Bitcoin on layer 1. The problem is that in Bitcoin, so every 10 minutes in Bitcoin, someone in the world wins a Bitcoin lottery where they get 50 Bitcoins, from mining. You basically you mine it, you luckily get some hash, and that hash gives you the right to make the next block for the entire Bitcoin blockchain. And then when doing so, you also award yourself 50 Bitcoins, right? Now imagine if this person, instead of just following the protocol like they should be and making one block, they make 3 blocks, and each of these blocks appear to be completely valid blocks, but they all contain different but valid transactions in each. And then they just broadcast these 3 blocks to the rest of the network and just leave the rest of the network to figure out which block is to use for the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So that causes a fork. So basically the way Bitcoin solves that fork is, someone else down the road will mine another block and then add on to what they think is the right fork. And then that fork is now longer. And then Bitcoin uses the longest chain method to figure out which is the right fork. And then that's the longest chain. Okay. And then all the other nodes, according to the protocol, will then switch to the longest chain. And then that's how that solves a forking issue. But it's probabilistic because any node can be an adversarial node. They might not follow this, so that's why you have to wait for so many confirmations. And actually, every single blockchain has this exact same problem, except for Algorand. So even Cardano has this problem, although Cardano doesn't use longest chain. Cardano uses something that's more like densest chain because it's kind of different with their model of like time frames and stuff. I don't need to get into it all, but even Cardano has this forking problem. So that's why you have to wait for so many confirmations, even with Cardano and other ones, which is, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just that the better solution is to never have to wait for confirmations except for a single block, which is Algorand. So that's what really drew me to it. And just the fact that that gives better security and makes it so much faster in actually transferring on layer 1. So there's also the whole layer 2 discussion, which is a whole different can of worms. But
Yeah, to get into from there. But so on the layer 1 of Algorand, it's a proof of stake
yeah,
chain.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's a proof of stake.
How many pools are there? Can anybody spin up a pool in a node on Algorand? How tough is it?
Um, so how many pools? The way it works is it's not like Cardano where there's pools. Basically just anybody who has algo tokens just accrues rewards. So you don't have to, so you basically just stake them to some node, but it's handled automatically by the official wallet. But you can also do it manually, if you have access to a node, and then you just accrue rewards from that participation node over time. It's like super simple. It's like, I think they call it a pure proof of stake model,
So
unlike a federated proof of stake.
who runs the nodes? Like, how is it decentralized?
Oh, so
I guess.
anybody can start a node and connect it to the network, which is what makes it decentralized. Unlike, for example, XRP. So XRP, although it's decentralized to an extent, one limitation is that all the nodes whitelist the other nodes. So you can't just join a participation node that participates in the consensus with XRP, for example. So that's what makes it decentralized, is that anybody can create a node and join the network and then stake their algos to that node if they want to.
But the node itself like isn't getting paid for being a mine. Like there's no like mining or
No, that's true. You get paid just based on how many algos you own. So you as an algo owner, if you don't trust a node, you can make your own node and stake your algos to that node.
to your own node.
Yeah. And
And that
basically they're switching to a governance model that's it's a decentralized, like democratic governance model where every person who owns algos can choose to be a governor, and then they stake their algos. Like they basically, it's not quite a lockup because you can withdraw them at any time, but you basically say, I'm going to stake my algos for, and by the way, I might have the details wrong. I didn't,
yeah,
but you basically stake your algos for months, and then you get to participate in voting for actual protocol decisions, like governance decisions, right? And then if you can still withdraw your algos early, like they're not completely locked up, but if you withdraw them early, then you don't get the rewards, basically. So they're
understood.
switching to this. And so the current system is you just get rewards just by holding algos. But the future system that they already have a plan for is this decentralized governance model.
Where you'll have to vote to earn rewards.
Um, yeah, basically, like you participate as a governor. I don't know what happens if you like abstain from voting or something, but basically by just kind of locking them up as, like, not really locking, but staking them as a governor, then you basically get the rewards that way.
Understood, understood. And so like if I have a private there's like private wallets for Algo
Yeah.
and I just have Algo in my private wallet, it's just accruing more Algorand in there. I don't need to like stake to a node or anything like that. Or I do.
So the wallet software most automatically staking to something, I believe. It's just
Okay.
handled in the background so you don't have to consciously do it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like if you download the
That's
official
nice.
wallet, I
Yeah.
think it's just staking to some official server.
Hmm.
I believe this is how it's working. There's a chance I'm not completely correct, but I think that's how it works.
Understood. Understood. That makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
then so like so you dig into all this and you fall in love with Algo
Yeah.
and it's local to you as well. Were
Yeah.
you able to like meet some people from the Algo team to like ask questions? Like how did you
Um,
ask
I
questions and
haven't.
dive so deep into it?
Okay, that's a great question. Yeah, so I actually live in the Boston area, which is near a lot of the algo people. Algorand was founded at MIT by Silvio Micali. So basically, yeah, a lot of the people at Algorand work locally. So I haven't met them in person, partially because of COVID, and just not a strong enough reason when we could also just meet virtually. But I have
Hmm.
met a lot of them through like video calls and such. The way I've gotten support is they have excellent support in their Discord that they offer to anybody who just wants to ask questions about Algorand, or if they're like developer specific. And from the time when I decided to actually start in the exchange, I didn't know how to do like anything with Algorand, basically. Or I was just learning from reading the documentations. I had like a million questions, so I was just asking, their support like on like a daily basis, and they just helped me out with everything. So like I had the confidence that I would be able to build with it because I have a lot of technical knowledge. I just didn't know the specifics of a few things. So they're super helpful.
Yeah. Do you find there is a pretty big growing ecosystem of people in the Discord there? Is that where the majority of the Algorand community? I know there's like Telegram and
Well, it's
Discord and
mostly
Twitter.
it has a sizable community, but it's not for just like like banter back and forth as much. It's more for like seeking help and giving ideas, like more of like official types of discussion.
Hmm.
There's also though there's two big Telegram channels where people are just talking all the time about price action and whatnot. Like I think you're not allowed to talk about price action in the official Discord or something like that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who just like to focus on prices more than
Then the
other things
project.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So,
that mostly
how
happens on Telegram.
what made you like how did you decide that you wanted to build a Dex? Like what made you want to fill that space?
Well, that's a good question. Um, so in the 2 months before that, I was gaining a big Twitter following, and I was debating a lot of people on Twitter about Algorand versus Ethereum, or Algorand, versus other cryptos. And everybody just constantly says, well, Algorand doesn't have a big ecosystem, so why should I invest in it? So I was just thinking, it's just getting more and more irritated. Like, why isn't there a bigger ecosystem? And like, should I wait for someone else to build it, or could I make it happen even faster if I just go down this track? So I was just thinking, and also way back, I was previously interested in making a Bitcoin exchange like 5 or 6 years ago. So it's always been kind of something on my mind. So I also, kind of like in a nerdy way, I read all the FinCEN regulations even beforehand, just because I was curious about them. Because all this stuff's highly regulated depending on how you design the software. So I was just thinking, I could be the person who designs the exchange. Like, why can't I do it? I have the technical skills. So so I started doing it on the side, basically, in addition to my day job, um, which was working. I was getting a lot done, but at a certain point, it just started taking over my life, like especially because I was doing it publicly. So everybody wanted to talk about it on Twitter, and people were reaching out to me to it. And I was just thinking to myself, like, this is just completely unmanageable with my job. Like, I have to, well, I don't have to, but I just really want to just pursue it full time. It doesn't make complete financial sense because, to be honest, I was making pretty good money at my last job, but it's just something I really want to do. It's a really fun experience, and also I think it's going to provide a ton of value to the community.
Yeah,
So
understandable completely. What on like are there stable coins or what other projects have you found in the Algorand ecosystem?
a great question. So there actually is a stable coin already working by Circle, who makes USDC. So basically, there's a stable coin called USDC and then like a lowercase a, which means it's on the Algorand network. So it's just like the Ethereum one, but it lives on the Algorand network. So one huge advantage to stablecoins, by the way, in the Algorand network is that I didn't get into fees, but the transaction fees on Algorand are currently like 10,000 times or 20,000 times lower than Ethereum. So if you send a stablecoin to someone, you only pay a tenth of a cent as a fee, which is awesome because like you could literally buy coffee with a stablecoin on layer one with Algorand if someone supported it. So people built the infrastructure. You could literally just be buying like random stuff that's only like a few dollars here and there because the fees are so low. And again, you have the 5-second transaction time to like complete finality. So stable coins are a growing thing. I heard there's like a Turkish stable coin coming out of like, I think the lira. I think that's a currency. Also, Meld and AlgoMint, both by the same team, they've actually introduced wrapped Ethereum. Oh, sorry. First, they started with wrapped gold and wrapped silver, and that's already working. So you can basically, they made a framework, I think, for making wrapped gold and wrapped silver. So banks can basically opt into it and then mint their own tokens. And anybody trading these tokens has a legal right to this actual gold or silver, and they can actually redeem it at a bank. But since it's a framework, it's not just their bank. Like any bank can participate, and in a bank vault keep their gold or silver, and then people can transfer around these tokens. And then they're going to expand. Algomint's going to expand this actually to wrapped. They're working on wrapped Ethereum and wrapped Bitcoin basically. So then, instead of paying massive transaction fees and waiting a long time sending your Bitcoin or Ethereum around on their layer one network, so you can just do it on Algorand and just instantly send it around. And then basically it keeps the actual Ethereum or Bitcoin in a vault.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Like
Yeah.
kind of
Plus
like
then you get the
wrap Bitcoin on Ethereum
yeah,
or even wrapped Ethereum, is out there.
right.
Does that
So it's
USDC coin is that like bridged between like is there a bridge between Algorand and Ethereum at this point?
that's a fantastic question. I think the bridge is so there's something called Yieldly that's coming out, I believe in June, and they're making I think it's the first bridge. So their platform has a bridge to different currencies. I didn't research specifically how it works, mostly because I'm hyper focused on my own project. So I'm not doing all the like crypto research on everything anymore as much. I'm just kind of focused on my own thing. But Yieldly, yeah.
Your audio cut out.
to
Right at
find.
the end. Right
Oh
at
yeah,
the end, you were fine.
got unplugged somehow. All
Yeah.
right. So Yodlee is introducing a bridge basically in June. So
Nice.
I just don't know the exact mechanics of it.
Absolutely. So how long? When did Algorand come out?
I think it came. That's a good question. I think they started working on it. Like the idea came out, I think in 2017 or 2018. I think the token came out. So I could be wrong with all this, but I think it came out in 2019. So I wasn't on the scene then.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but what's interesting to me also is that it barely had any attention at all until like December of 2020. If you look at Reddit statistics, so if you look at the Reddit growth until like December, there was only like one post a day in Reddit related to Algorand. So there were almost no normal people who knew about it. And then all of a sudden it started gaining lots of traction, possibly because of Coinbase introducing the staking rewards. And then people started noticing it more, reading into the research, and investing in it. Now it's like kind of taking off virally. Like the Reddit size has doubled in growth in just like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months.
wow,
So
that's
it's
pretty
getting
amazing.
crazy growth because what's so interesting about it is even though it doesn't have the ecosystem size of like Ethereum, nothing does. Um, Basically, Bitcoin maybe has a sizable one. But anyways, even though it doesn't have the ecosystem size today, people recognize that it's one of, if not the best blockchains. So just based on that alone, just the fact that it's technologically superior is just so interesting. It's drawing a lot of people into it. People like me, because there's basically two camps of people. I wouldn't say two, but there's two major camps. There's people who like the best technology once they hear about it, and then there's people that just kind of gravitate towards the biggest ecosystem. So the people who hear about Algorand and they understand all the benefits on the technology side, and they like good technology, they're just kind of gravitating towards Algorand. So it's a pretty interesting scene. There's a lot of like diehard followers, kind of like myself now. It's a really great and very supportive community. That's one reason I decided to build on it, is because just people are just so extremely supportive. And with AlgoDex, there's literally people like just volunteering to work on it, not even asking anything in return at first. Although
That's
obviously, anybody who's super helpful, I'm probably gonna give them a ton of tokens later on once we
yeah,
have an ICO. But
that's
uh,
awesome.
yeah.
And yeah, like how'd you meet like partners and people that have been helping so far? Did that all come out of the
Oh yeah, it
Discord?
was all through Twitter, mostly Twitter, and also some Telegram. Just people reaching out, because basically, so I have to be honest, I'm like naturally kind of introverted. Although maybe less so nowadays, but I used to be like way introverted. And I'd just be tweeting on Twitter. I don't reach out to other people as much, but I guess from all my tweets, people become more familiar with me. So people have just kind of been like reaching out to me, and we just kind of have like uh, DM discussions and stuff like that. And then people just really want to help out with Algodex. And right from the start, like the day one that I announced it, there were already like people volunteering just to help me with it, which is crazy.
That's pretty
So
awesome.
it's really cool.
And so explain to me, with this like 5 second finality and lower fees, you're able to do like you're doing real order books
Oh
versus
yeah,
liquidity
so
pooling?
Algodex is unique because I'm it's it might be, so I don't know, I haven't studied every exchange, so full disclaimer, but it might be the only DEX that uses limit orders with keeping everything on layer one. So what's amazing about this is that even the order books on layer one, Algodex doesn't even have to be hosted by a website. Like if let's say it wasn't legally compliant in the US or something, we could just release it as open source and just have everyone download and run it on their computer, and there's nothing anybody can do about it, because it's not illegal to make, financial software, in that case, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
we're designing it anyway, so it is going to be legal in the US. But you know, I'm just saying it's like a very unique software design. Like it's fully decentralized. Just like nobody can stop anyone from booting up a Bitcoin node. It's like that level of decentralization.
right.
Although, yeah, but we are having it on a website mostly for user convenience. So that we're designing the clients that they're going to basically be downloading cache versions of the blockchain from the server. So the clients don't have to download the whole blockchain, directly from the blockchain, because it's just not good for the user experience. But it's an interesting design. So yeah, basically when you place an order, it goes onto the blockchain, and you you just have to wait like 4 seconds, basically, for the finality, and then your order is on the blockchain in an escrow account as a limit order. So every limit order is its own escrow account, and those are like the market makers basically. Anybody who places a limit order and just kind of leaves it there is a market maker. And then the people who then execute and take money out of these escrow accounts, they basically do so via smart contracts, and that prevents any kind of like cheating behaviors. Like, let's say I'm going to withdraw from an escrow account and take algos out of your escrow account, and I'm supposed to send you, another token, but I don't send you that token because I'm just, trying to steal your money or something. The smart contracts prevent that. So that's where the smart contracts come in, basically.
That makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and like you have are you gonna have separate like maker and taker fee? Are there fees involved with this
Oh, so
dex?
what we're thinking of doing, this is all kind of up in the air, but um, the maker fees, we might have takers refund the maker fees because we want to incentivize people to provide liquidity. So we might have the makers just have like no fees basically. So anytime someone takes money, so by default, when you have an escrow account on Algorand and anybody withdraws from that escrow account, the fees are paid by the escrow account. So we might make another smart contract that sends another transaction from the person taking money out of it to refund the fees. And then we're also probably going to have like low trading fees, like somewhere, 0.1 to 0.5% or something, that probably the taker will have to pay,
Understood, understood. Okay, that
possibly.
makes
But all these are up for discussion. Yep.
right,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So like what currently right now, you're building out like UI and the contracts that operate on all this. What's kind of like your timeline of production you see right now?
That's a great question. So one huge um, thing we're trying to get past is the security audit. And it seems that every single security audit company is backed up until like October to December. So, and not only that, but some of them are extremely expensive. So, like to get a security audit for Algorand right now, you're going to have to pay like, depending on who you go with, like 50 or 60,000 all the way up to like $300,000. Just crazy. And this is just for people to look at your code for like 3 weeks. Two guys to look at your code for 3 weeks costs like up to $200,000 to $300,000 because there's just so
Well,
much backed up.
yeah, and like as being somebody who is just in an exploited project, and
Yeah.
I feel like the auditor in question for that project, that would make it the fourth project that had been exploited after audit by them.
Mhm.
So I think finding a very highly qualified and well, like, a good auditor that has a good track record is very important, and that's probably going to cost, but that's one of the things I now look at new projects like myself. I'm
Yeah.
like, who did the audit? Who you know what I mean? Like, let's go check
Right.
out the
Yeah.
auditor page, because I've seen some like really horrible auditors and horrible websites where it's like, yeah, we audited SafeMoon and Moondog Coin, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm out.
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But
So
that's like your biggest hurdle right now.
yeah, that's probably the biggest hurdle. In terms of, we actually have to finish the code too. So my smart contracts and API calls are probably like 2/3 to 75% done. I'm trying to finish those up. We have to get the UI built out. So we currently have really good designs for the UI, but the thing has to actually be built. But that's not going to hold back the security audit because basically the audit's only for the smart contracts,
Mm-hmm.
based on our design. Like all the security is just in the contracts basically because
That,
all the data is stored on the blockchain. So
that
um,
that makes
so
a
yeah,
lot of sense.
but the thing is, whenever the UI does get built, and whenever I finish up a bit more of the smart contracts, we can deploy it onto testnet, so people can be playing around with it for months, even before it's on mainnet. If we have to wait for months,
Yeah, so
unless we can find, yeah, go.
this is something that's going to take time to release. This isn't like a release in 2021 type project.
No, it's going to be released in 2021. It's
Oh
just
wow.
it's just not going to get released like next month. I
Yeah,
think it's probably going to release due to the audit in like October to December. It's looking like.
understood. Redo has a really good question in chat. Why'd you decide to go with order books instead of liquidity pools?
Well, because we wanted to build something unique. Everyone else is doing liquidity pools, so why not do order books? And also, order books will work perfectly on Algorand because of the 4-second transaction times. So you can place an order, cancel an order, execute against other people's orders. And also, I heard that the transaction times are even going down to 2 seconds. I think I heard from somewhere. Not sure how accurate it is, so it's going to get even better. So because the transaction times are so low, it allows an order book system, and order books give a lot of advantages that liquidity pools don't have. For example, you can set a price where you want to sell it and just leave it, and then come back later and see if it executes or not. And other types of trades and stuff like that, which you can't do with liquidity pools. I'm not saying liquidity pools are bad. There's just trade-offs.
Absolutely, and you can be more fluid, I think, with an order book with the liquidity you have
Yeah,
and
like
how
why
you
do
want
you
to set.
think? Yeah, exactly. Like, why doesn't Coinbase use some kind of pseudo liquidity pool? They use order books. Like all the centralized exchanges use order books. And it's for a reason, because order books have a lot of advantages.
Mhm. What
Everybody like. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, what are like some of the base pairs you're gonna be trading on Algodex?
Oh, so this is another. Yeah, I might have forgotten to mention. Every single pair will be available on Algodex. So any single token that's available in Algorand, you can trade on Algodex just by default.
Okay,
That's
so
one of the advantages to it.
are there any like so you're saying there's already a few stable coins, are there's other projects that'll be tradable? How do
Oh
you
yeah,
guys plan on doing do you have any tokenomics plans for Algodex the token? What's the token
yeah.
name?
We don't want to release a token name yet because we haven't made the token yet, so we don't want a copycat to try to
Yeah.
pretend to be us. But yeah, we're going to come out with a token that will be supported by the exchange fees. And down the road, we're going to have some kind of a initial DEX offering. But we'll have to do it, obviously in a legally compliant way. We can't just release a token, because you can't just do that according to SEC regulations and such. So we'll have to figure out how to legally arrange that. But we're definitely planning on having an ICO down the road.
Awesome. And like, what are you doing this all personally? Like, is there a fund for people that want to help Algodex like jump the hurdle of getting the audits and stuff like that?
So it's not public information, but we do have some sources of funding to help with the audit. We might also raise money down the road, like if we want to let people invest in the token but at a discount before the actual ICO
Is there
and stuff like
like
that.
with Cardano, there's like an accelerator program. Is there anything like that with the Algorand community?
Um, yeah, so basically the foundation, well, I don't know if this is the same thing, but the Algorand Foundation gives grants to projects that they see as really important to help the ecosystem. And
Yes, so
the,
similar.
yeah, there's also something called Borderless Capital, which is also closely tied with Algorand, and it's basically like a venture capital group that does something similar, but it's venture capital, so I guess they take a stake, but they can provide a lot of money to fund projects.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was just thinking of like you see Cardano has this like catalyst program that people are going through that want to build stuff on there, and I'm like trying to compare like how can Algorand help somebody like yourself, and projects
Yeah,
like yourself get pushed forward in the early stages, you know what I mean?
right.
Do you find that to be a hurdle at the beginning?
Yeah, well, at the beginning, there's some things they make really easy to learn, but there's some things where if you're making a decentralized application, there's still some hurdles you have to get past unless you happen to know every single aspect of the tech stack. And there's a lot of different aspects. Like for example, there's some stuff that's obvious to like front end developers, but other developers don't know, like how to set up a React project in JavaScript and stuff like that. And but all the stuff related to Algorand, they document extremely well, so it's really easy to pick up and figure out how to debug things and how to make smart contracts and how to play around with a debugger and stuff like that. But it's pretty good. There are some hurdles to picking it up if you haven't done it before. But if you can just go, I mean, anybody can go in the Discord and just do what I did and just ask a lot of questions and you just get all the answers. Like they're not, they want to help you as much as possible, and they're also actively making everything better and better based on feedback. So it's easier and easier for people to jump in and get started on their own projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see your the Twitter group you've got is growing like leaps and bounds with people asking questions. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a community growing there, that's for sure. And like you see it moving quickly. Do you like are regulations an issue being in America? Is that an issue for you in any way?
Oh, that's a huge issue because basically there's something called FinCEN, which you might have heard of. Um, it's a big regulatory body in the U.S. and basically what FinCEN does is they were invented, I mean, they were created by the federal government after September 11, and the purpose is to track down all money laundering that can be tied to things like terrorism or really bad crimes. So that's the purpose of it existing. But as a result of this existing, they also kind of penalized, the 99.999% of innocent people who have to go through a whole bunch of extra hurdles just to be able to send money back and forth. Like, whenever you sign up for a bank or you sign up for, a centralized exchange, you have to submit your ID and you have to talk, you have to give all your personal information and all that stuff. That's all part of FinCEN. So depending on how you design your application, you might have to be KYC compliant. So it's called KYC, which is know your customer. So,
Yep.
but it's extremely hard to set up, especially if you're a startup, because to do all this stuff, you have to register as a money transmitter with the federal government. Plus, you have to register in like 49 or 50 states separately in every single state, which is extremely expensive in legal fees. Plus, you have to have a money laundering plan, and you have to have a money laundering officer who makes sure that none of the users are criminals or something, right? So it's really difficult to do, but um, what we're doing is we're designing the software so that we as the operators are not money transmitters, because we're basically, the way we're designing AlgoDex is that we're just providing the software, and then just anybody else can just use the software however they see fit. Do you know what I mean? And it's not regulated to create financial software. Like, anybody can type on a keyboard and create as much financial software as they want. Like, and FinCEN actually spells that out too. Like, FinCEN said a software engineer or like a contractor is not a money transmitter. So
So,
it's like a very interesting line you kind of have to toe.
yeah, I think like kind of like Uniswap might be doing the same thing. Have you looked
Yeah.
into like what they're doing on Ethereum? Like it seems like they made Uniswap, but once it goes live, it's like out there. Like Uniswap version 1 is still running, version 2 is still running, and they have now version 3 that just came out, but there's no like taking back
Oh,
version
interesting.
1. You know what I mean? Like I think it's just out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, it it all comes down to like who has access to the money. Like, if I had access, so the way Algodex is designed is we as the operators don't actually have access to anybody's money that goes on the exchange. Like, we can't, if you put money in an escrow account, we don't even have like technical access to withdraw it. Only you can do it. Like, it's literally all your accounts. You know what I mean? Based on the way the smart contracts are designed. And all your money too is not held on Algodex. Like, it's held on an external wallet that we're going with, which is called My Algo. So basically, whenever you submit a trade, it'll go off to this external wallet to sign a signature, and then it gets the signed transaction back from that. And then that signed transaction is then sent directly to the Algorand network, not passing through any of our servers. So it's basically direct, like anybody trading on our platform, it's directly between those people and the other the other traders, basically. And then we have a contract on the blockchain, which is just for the order book. So no money's being stored there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool design, in my opinion. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I'm me, but
Yeah, yeah.
um,
No, that's really interesting though. No, it is really interesting stuff. Like to come out
yeah.
with and like to be able to get away from the liquidity pooling of other slower chains is really interesting. Have you looked into like I hear a lot about this like Solana ecosystem and all
Oh
that
yeah, I've
stuff
looked
popping.
into it a little bit. Yeah, they have some interesting exchanges, especially because it seems so long. I don't. I read like a design overview of one of their exchanges. I forget. I think called Serum, like Serum Swap, but they have an exchange too. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like they do a lot of queuing, which is really interesting. I don't know if Solana natively supports that, or if it's some kind of extra server they have.
Mm-hmm.
Basically,
Interesting.
you can make, it's not necessary, but you can make exchanges even better if you queue all the orders also, so that everybody executes in the sequence that they place the orders, so people can't jump ahead of other people and stuff like that. But um, we're not doing that at first.
Kind of cuts
But
out the
also what,
gamification of it.
yeah, right. And also what we might do in the future, we might allow things like an optional layer 2 order book. So again, our order book right now is a layer 1 order book because it's on the blockchain, but we might allow some kind of order book that's in a database that's more centralized, but because it's in a database, it would be extremely fast to place orders and remove orders and so on, like as an option for people who want to be like high frequency traders. But that's like a down the road thing. There's all kinds of options down the road. And also though, one interesting thing I don't think I mentioned, in parallel, we're building an NFT marketplace that's going to use the exact same smart contracts as the normal exchange. So
Yeah, I mean that
that'll be
makes
pretty
sense.
interesting.
Yeah, you're trading anything at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So the NFT marketplace is more tailored towards like artists and people who actually make the NFTs, and then they can list them for sale, and then they can take basically they can sell them there, but they can list all the information about the NFT and like, with like pictures or links and detailed, info about it, which you can't do on the exchange. So although the exchange will let you trade every single ASA that exists, it won't display all the detailed information about every single ASA. You know what I mean? It just shows like the token name and the
Yeah,
ID number and such.
yeah, that makes complete sense. With the NFTs, like, are there artists, and this is just my complete ignorance. I don't, mean this in any way. Are there NFTs currently and artists on Algorand floating around in the private wallets?
Yeah, there actually are, and um, there's actually a whole subreddit that's pretty active just devoted to people trading NFTs. So it's like there's like an organic growth of people making NFTs on Algorand and just trading them to each other even without exchanges. Although there are some platforms that recently came out, and there's some really big ones coming out. Although I haven't, to be totally honest, I haven't kept careful track because I'm like hyper focused on my project. But there's NFT platforms already out. There's some coming out, and then there's just a whole bunch of people just kind of on the side making and trading NFTs with each other. Like through Reddit basically, or through Discord.
Yeah,
It's kind of interesting.
that's pretty interesting. That's
But
pretty interesting.
yeah, so in the super long run, though, Algorand's the best platform for NFTs, and the reason why is that whole forking problem. So if you have an NFT on Algorand, you can be guaranteed that nobody's going to have like a false duplicate of your NFT. Because, for example, with Bitcoin, let's say you like Bitcoin's a bad example because you can't have NFTs on Bitcoin, but let's say Ethereum, okay? You could technically, with Ethereum, you could rope off like sections of the network, like physically. Like let's say like China wants to make their own internet, right? And they just sever all the ties of all the internet cables. I mean, this is highly unlikely, but let's just say you could then have two separate networks of Ethereum, and they both look identical, and there's no way to distinguish them. But Algorand is the only one that prevents that kind of a thing. So with Algorand, basically the the smaller network would basically just stop functioning because the consensus protocol won't work, and it cryptographically ensures you can't have a forked network.
Wait,
So
so like if so just using your example, like if China was like, we're cutting all the fucking internet cables leaving our country right now.
yeah, yeah,
And Algo was like running in China. The Algo in China
yeah,
would be like, like
yeah,
cannot connect and just shut down. They wouldn't be able to even run their own like Algo B in China, is what you're saying.
yeah. Well, what they could do is they could change the source code of Algorand in China, right? And they can change the source code and have their own token that they call algo tokens. But the original network would not recognize those as valid tokens. Do you know what I
Right,
mean? They wouldn't be interchangeable. So
right.
that'd be some kind of a hard fork, but that's a different kind of fork. And also the whole rest of the world would know what they did, and the whole rest of the world would say, okay, this other network is not authentic tokens. Plus, our original network, based on the cryptographic protocol, won't even recognize them as authentic tokens. While with Ethereum, if you reconnect to the networks, the networks would be sorting out like which one's authentic, which one's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it wouldn't be able to tell which one
Yeah,
was the
like
real
at
thing.
least that's my interpretation. I have to admit, I'm not like I'm not like a total technical expert on this stuff, but I mean that's how I see it in that terms of forking. So there's like a lot of forking protections in Algorand. So you can just be sure that like if you have an NFT on Algorand, there's no chance at any time in the future it's ever going to be forked, basically.
Hmm. That
Like
makes
if you have like the Mona Lisa, you know, as an NFT and it's worth like, I don't know how much it's worth, probably $1 billion or something at this point, right? You don't want the chance that there could be two of your Mona Lisa NFTs floating around on the network, you know.
right, right.
But
Scarcity is
that's way
4.0.
down the road because obviously, you know, right now Ethereum is the biggest ecosystem. So, you know, it's an important decision. Do you want to go with the biggest ecosystem or do you want to go with the best technology?
That makes a lot of sense. Pharaoh Zero said, "Question: What do you think the central banks will use for a D ledger if they adopt one? Protocol coins, custom chain, or something like Hyperledger Fabric?" That is above my head.
So, okay, that's a fun question, especially for Algorand, because Algorand is actively working with multiple central banks. They've publicly stated this. So, and you can, if you even Google it, um, you know, there's like news that like so this isn't public that it's Algorand, but there's public news that MIT is working with the Federal Reserve on a cryptocurrency, and there's only one cryptocurrency from MIT. So you know, if you can put two and two together, you know. So, but in terms of there, actually though, I think Algorand's the only one that already signed up a central bank. For example, the Marshall Islands are going to use Algorand as their central bank digital currency, and basically because Algorand is technologically the best at layer one, it's a huge advantage for central banks to want to use Algorand. And what they're going to do though, technically, is I think they're not all going to go on the main Algorand network. Rather, some might do that, but it seems like the current trend is that all the central banks will have their private network that's like a clone of Algorand, but from their own Genesis block, and then there'll be bridges onto the main network. I mean, this is my understanding. I haven't, again, I'm not, I'm more an amateur in seeing how this is going. I haven't, you know, I'm not like working with Algorand on anything like this, so I could be wrong with any of these details, but that's my understanding, is that basically there'll be like cloned Algorand networks that are like private Algorand networks. If they go with Algorand, they could go with something else like XRP is another main contender. I think the main contenders are like Algorand and XRP for central bank stuff. And also I think Cardano's trying to go after it too in certain areas. Um, and I think there's a few other cryptocurrencies too, but basically there's all these cryptocurrencies now vying to become the central bank currencies, and all the central bank currencies are almost definitely at this point going to be cryptocurrencies. Like there's no way they're just going to use like a SQL database or something, because you know all the security advantages of using a cryptocurrency. But Algorand is definitely one of the leading contenders, if not the leading one. It's probably my opinion is that probably XRP and Algorand are the ones best suited for central banks, because XRP, remember, XRP doesn't have the full decentralization benefits of say like Cardano or Algorand or Bitcoin. But if you're using it as a central bank currency, they don't care as much about full decentralization because they want control of all the servers running it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So which works with XRP. Although to be honest, I'm not an investor in XRP. I'm just kind of stating some knowledge I think I have about, you know, the current trend with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I
Absolutely.
could be wrong. I'm not a professional crypto analyst. I'm just some guy making a DEX right now
Well, yeah,
who's also happens to be an Algorand influencer.
what's like a day in the life of yourself trying to like code up a dex? Like, is it frustrating? Do you get frustrated often? Do you have to take a break a lot? Do you have
Well,
like a tilt room where you go break a bunch of shit and then come
no.
back?
So what's funny? So originally it was more like that when I was figuring out all the APIs for Algorand and talking to the Algorand support all the time. Right now, it's funny is I know how to do it, but I have a different problem. Is that all these people want to meet with me throughout the day. So I have all these meetings, you know, that I go to, and then that distracts me from the actual coding. So I have less time to actually work on the code. So that's the day in the life is I get up really early because my wife makes me go to bed early around like I don't know, like 9 o'clock or 9:30. So I wake up at like 5, and I go. I might write some code, talk to some people. I have some people all over the world on my team now. It's not a big team, but there's like someone from Australia, so I talk to him. He's up, see what's happening, and then I have some staggered meetings in the day, and then in between, sometimes I write code or sometimes I don't. You know, that's kind of how it goes. But technically wise, it's just a matter of getting the code written. Like I don't have any big questions, at least on the smart contract side. It's just getting it done at this point.
That makes sense. How big is the team at this point? Are you guys?
Um, it's a good question. We have, I think, so I have like, I think I have three, I have like 4 advisors, which are super useful just for keeping me on track because I'm kind of a novice as an entrepreneur. And then I have, as engineers, we have like, there's me who's doing it, and then we have, I think, four or 5 part-time engineers who are working on it. And again, we don't have tons of funding because we haven't raised venture capital, so I can't afford to pay full-time engineers to just work on my project, which is only, by the way, Algodex is only a month old. Okay, so it's still like a brand new project. We're just trying to do it like really fast. So like, but the thing is, these people from the Algorand community who want to help, a lot of them have really strong engineering backgrounds, and they're just so interested in helping out, and people can be really productive on the side, as I know personally. So um, that's basically the team at this time.
Absolutely. That's awesome that it's kind of like grassroots coming together
Yeah, it's
from
very
like
grassroots.
from the community.
Yeah,
Do you
definitely.
find like a lot of the people in the algo community, are they from MIT, or is it just all over the world, like people from
No,
all over the
it's
world?
totally global. They're from everywhere, like literally every country. So it's you know mostly English speaking people, but there's actually quite a lot of Japanese too. It was funny, in my Telegram channel. Apparently there's a Japanese Algorand channel, and someone told the Japanese channel about my Algodex channel, and then overnight we had like 200 or 300 Japanese people just kind of flood into the channel. And at first we're like, are these spammers or what? But no, they're just all these interested Japanese Algorand enthusiasts who just came into our channel. It's
That's
kind of funny.
that's awesome that it's worldwide.
Yeah, it's definitely real wide. We're all. Oh, by the way, we're making the exchange a global exchange in that we're going to support all the major languages on the exchange. So you can just set which language you want to see the exchange in, and it'll work really well. Basically, it's called localization.
Now, do you have any troubles with like, I guess because it's all decentralized and you're just putting the program out there as a DEX, you don't really have any troubles with like regulations in other
So,
countries or anything?
well, that's a great question. We're sorting through it with my lawyers, but basically, the way it's designed, at least our intention is that we are putting the software out there, and then people are going to be downloading the software through the website and then using it, right? So that's kind of the intention. The legal side is kind of complicated. We're just sorting that through with lawyers right now. But we'll basically do what we have to try to make it available everywhere. There's some countries we can't make it available that are trade restricted countries, like Iran or like North Korea or something, based on you know U.S. trade restrictions. Like I think even like GitHub is blocked in like countries like Iran just because of the U.S. law.
Wild. That's so
Like
wild.
basically the U.S. can ban anyone in the U.S. from doing business with specific countries. It's kind of crazy,
So
but
like,
that's how it is.
I guess it would be really tough to figure all this out, like how fees work and things
Yeah,
like that. Like it's such a crazy new frontier
right.
to like dive into. Do you ever get like frustrated with trying to like bridge crypto world with like regular finance world when you're talking to people?
I mean, I wouldn't say frustrated in the past, but now I'm like so focused on just doing it anyways that it's more of just kind of exciting to me. You know what I mean? Like when you're just kind of like crazy about a goal, it's not as much frustration. You're just kind of excited about doing it, even though if there's some frustrating aspects to it. But I'm already aware. I've been aware of all those aspects for a while, so it's more of just communicating them and trying to sort out how exactly to do things.
That makes a lot of sense.
In a legally compliant way, of course.
Right. And just like busting out the hours of getting all the
Yeah,
work done.
exactly.
You wake up, you're like, how many hours can I put in today?
I know. My wife kind of hates it because I work like from the time I get up until like the time I sleep. I'm like basically only working on my project or like talking to people, things related to my project, or like tweeting about stuff that's like indirectly related to it, or about Algorand. So it's kind of like a full-time thing right now. But you kind of have to do that with any startup. Like if you make any startup, it's basically at the beginning, it's like it completely consumes your life. You know what I mean? Until you're fortunate enough to have it grow to something where you can delegate more of the responsibility.
Abs-
Although I haven't, again, I'm new as an entrepreneur, so I know the whole tech side super well, but the whole business side, I'm still, learning the ropes as I go along.
Makes a lot of sense. Where do you see, like, when do you think a testnet and stuff will be out for you guys? What's like your next release point?
So we're hoping for a testnet release by July or August, but it really depends on how fast we can get the UI built out. But the thing is, even if the UI is just partially built out, I don't see a problem with just putting a partial thing on testnet. Like I don't, you know what I mean? So even if it's not completely done, if we just have something working, I'll just throw it up there. If people want to play with it, like I don't really care. So, um, but basically, yeah, it's going to be on testnet, and then while we're waiting for the audit, we're just going to refine it and make it better and better and better. And then meanwhile, in parallel, we're building the NFT marketplace, and that'll get done. I'm not sure when, but basically have um, one person on our team is like just dedicated to working on the NFT marketplace. So on our team, we have like 4 designers slash UI engineers. So these are people that are extremely experienced just in building UIs. So they should. I mean, I expect them. They're going to make a really nice polished UI in the long run. It's just it takes time to get there. Coding takes a while to really make a good product.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. And like there'll always be
yeah,
iterations along the way
yeah,
where
exactly.
cleaning
It's
things
just going to
up
get
and
iterated and iterated and iterated upon. But
exactly.
as soon as the smart contracts are done, even if the UI is like not completely done, there's still people who want to be trading. Like people don't need to have a perfect UI to just start with. You know what I mean? So as soon as it's secure, like as soon as I'm 100% confident it's a very secure product and we have an audit, we're just going to release it. Even if the UI is not done. Like I want there's so much like a market demand just for trading on Algorand that's just unfulfilled right now. So we really want to meet that demand.
Are there any other dexes on Algorand right now?
Yeah, so Yieldly, which I mentioned before, I think they're having some kind of liquidity pool system, and I think AlgoMint is also launching some kind of liquidity pool system. So basically, there's going to be and then there's also something called ASA swap, I think. So by the end of this year, there should be 4 operating exchanges, including mine, assuming we can get hours out by then.
Well, dang it, we're gonna make
So
Algodex the best.
yeah, but we're unique in that we have limit orders. So I don't really see them so much as competitors because we're all kind of gonna in the long run collaborate. Like I've already been in a lot of talks with the founder of AlgoMint, whose name is Michael Kotzen. He's a super nice and fun guy, by the way. So he and I have been talking about like possible collaborations we're gonna do, like with reward systems, and they're like minting tokens like wrapped gold and wrapped Ethereum, wrapped Bitcoin, all of which are going to be tradable on my exchange. So they really want us to be finished, even though they have like their own exchange. So because basically all the exchanges are going to grow the ecosystem and then draw in a ton more demand for Algorand itself. So it'll cause all the exchanges to grow in terms of usage, even though on like a technical level they might be competitors, but it's not such a big deal. It's only there's room for like dozens of exchanges. Just look at Ethereum.
That
You know
makes a
what I
lot of
mean?
sense. When you're using Algo, do you have to have Algo in your wallet, or can you use any token you have in your wallet to pay the fees?
Oh, that's a great question. You basically have to use Algo to pay the fees, but do you mean the transaction fees or the trading fees?
transaction fees,
Yeah,
like
so
on Ethereum, you have to use
yeah,
Ethereum
it's the
for
same.
gas.
So you have to pay algos, although again, the fees are just so tiny. It's like 1/10 of a cent to send a transaction that, you know, they're I wouldn't say any fees are negligible, but you know, relative to Ethereum, they're very low.
That makes
But
a
yeah,
lot of
it's
sense.
all in algos. Every fee's in algos, and on our exchange, at least to begin with, the fees are going to be in algos. Down the road, we'll probably also support buying stuff with USDC. Also, it's just that we're trying to make like an initial product, so we can't do everything at once.
Yeah, so like all your initial pairs will be algo pairs.
Yeah, it'll be algo to everything else basically. So all the
Right.
trading pairs are algo to something else.
Yes. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
man. And where can like if people, we're running towards the end of the hour here. When people want to keep up with you guys and what's going on, where is the best place for everybody to keep up with Algodex?
At the moment, it's probably following my Twitter channel and going into, so my Twitter channel is twitter.com/A3voices. That's one of the best ways. There's also an AlgoDex official Twitter handle that you can follow, although I haven't been posting from it much yet, but down the road we'll be using that more. And then third, we have an official Telegram channel, which is, I think, it's just Telegram t.me/AlgoDex or something. You just look up AlgoDex on Telegram. Or if you go to the AlgoDex official Twitter handle, we have a link to the Telegram channel.
I'm putting it
So
all.
we already have like 600 something people in the Telegram channel, even though the product's not done yet, which is kind of crazy to me. Like there's so much interest, it's not even done. And I haven't been marketing it that much, other than just basically I've just been talking about it on Twitter here and there because I'm excited about it, but I haven't been like directly trying to market the product. So it's kind of like just been taking off virally within
Have you
Algorand. I mean,
C4 EYO says will fees be used to burn tokens, making it deflationary? Have you really thought into tokenomics and all
oh
that
yeah,
at this
so
point?
that right. So the token we're releasing for the exchange is going to be backed by the exchange trading fees. So probably what we're going to do is that the exchange fees, or at least a lot of the fees, will be used to buy back our token and then essentially burn the token or keep the token in some kind of an account where then the future governance model will decide what happens to the token. You know what I mean? Or something like that. But yeah, basically that's going to be the model. And that's why the tokens will have value, other than just being called our tokens.
Right,
A little bit
absolutely.
like Binance, the way they do it.
Yeah, you can like either buy and burn them or either like buy and redistribute them as in some way
Yeah, exactly.
for like staking and backing the protocol or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Any other questions from chat? Is Algo on Binance? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it is. Algo's
It
on
is.
Binance.
Really?
It's on Binance.us. Yeah.
Oh, like Algo the coin. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay.
Algo the coin is. Our coin's not created yet, so it's nowhere. It's
Right.
just in our imagination, basically.
When do you expect that to be releasing?
We might do it soon, and we're thinking of doing some airdrops soon for it.
Like when token? I'm sure you get asked
Yeah.
all the time.
It could,
When
yeah, I know. It
token?
could be in the next month or so even. I'm not sure. We have to figure out an airdrop system that's fair, where one person can't like sign up like 30 email addresses and get 30 times the tokens as anybody else. So we're going to probably do some kind of like phone number verification or something like that. So we have to figure out all those details. So it's a little bit complicated, but we're planning on doing an airdrop of the token.
Makes a lot of sense, man. That's awesome. Well, dude, I really appreciate you taking an hour with us today to explain all
Yeah,
this.
definitely. It had a lot of fun.
And we're gonna have to do another one of these in like a month or two as you get
Yeah.
closer, and we can maybe show off some stuff or anything
Yeah,
like that.
definitely. Yeah, once we have something worthy of showing off.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate your time. It's been a
Yeah.
good one.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you for watching the YouTube videos. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, comment down below, help us out with the YouTube algorithms. And we're live 5 days a week on Twitch, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. EST. Come check us out. Thanks for watching.